Good afternoon, dear colleagues. This is 160th day of Ukraine's fight for freedom. My name is Natalia, and our guest today is Vadym Tabakera, Deputy Director of Economic Policy Department of Lviv Oblast Military Administration. Vadym, over to you. The first question for you is, how many IDPs do we have in Lviv at the moment, and what do you do in order to accommodate them? Good afternoon, dear colleagues. As of today, official statistics official statistics of the State Statistics Service, we have 260,000 IDPs in Lviv and Lviv region. 75,000, it's children. Majority, as you understand, these are people of non-employable age, non-working population. Majority of them are women, and 30,000 retirees. Most IDPs today live in big towns of Lviv region: Lviv, Drohobych, Stry, Sambir, Chervonograd, Zolochiv, etc. So big towns and district centers, community centers. We understand that there is a need to prepare for the new academic year. Therefore, we are doing all we can in order to provide decent living conditions to these people so that they can stay in new accommodation for a long time, new and comfortable accommodation. Thank you, Vadym. Let me just remind you that you can ask questions to our speakers, so you just need to raise your hand if you have a question for our guest. We know that lots of IDPs settle down in schools, but we know that new academic year is around the corner. So where are you going to relocate those people? We understand that a lot of people who were registered officially as IDPs, they live in private residences, in apartments and houses. But governmental institutions hosted not so many IDPs. Schools and educational facilities hosted 9,000 people, give or take. Therefore, we offer them only those educational facilities where they could feel comfortable, where they could feel safe. And this is the group of people, 9,000 people who need to be relocated into alternative type of accommodation or lodging. We understand that this is priority number one before the 1st of September. We also consider offering them lodging using three different categories. First of all, this is purchasing accommodation for them, new developments, and social lodging that could be suitable for long-term purposes. What are the funds that exist today that can help build or offer new lodging? Who is ready to support you otherwise? It's a very interesting question. It's a key question. We understand that 75% of our national budget today is used to secure the needs of national safety and security and defense budget. Therefore, we understand that national budget is scarce and limited when it comes to providing lodging to IDPs. Given that Lviv region, having fully realized that such mechanism of purchasing lodging for IDPs cannot be financed from the national budget, and the new developments haven't started yet. So we developed the program of priority initiatives of Lviv region. 20 social facilities will be refurbished, and we will create additional lodging for our IDPs. So in the next month or two, I believe that we will relocate those people before the beginning of the new academic year. Let's not forget about donors. Donors work in Ukraine and in Lviv region. We have representative offices of different donor organizations, international foundations in Lviv region. Most of them are cooperating with us. We have a memorandum of cooperation signed, and 1/3 of our donors, they have the mandate and authority to fund the new developments, the construction of new lodging, and we cooperate with the United Nations closely. We also cooperate with on projects with Danish Council of Refugees Issues, Move Ukraine, International Organization of Migration, etc. There are a lot of organizations and donor charity funds that are now working to provide the lodging to our IDPs. We have a question from our guests. Святослав Drabchuk, the First Western Channel. How many people can end up in the street? Basically, like how many people should leave schools before the beginning of academic year, and what is the risk that people may not get any lodging? And what is the number of social facilities where people can be relocated? Yeah, I don't want to formulate the question like that, ending up in the street or evicting people from schools, etc. The government obliged all state administrations not to evict people, but rather find alternative lodging for those people so that they can stay in comfortable conditions and have all the things they need for their comfortable daily life. So it's we should provide them lodging before their housing in the occupied territory is renewed or returned. Today we are talking about daycares and secondary schools that have to be liberated and prepared for the new academic year. So now we are talking about 9,000 people who still live in schools and kindergartens. In order to find options for them to relocate those people, we have created a special task force in each district who are in charge of finding alternative sources of accommodation. And they talk to communities of their neighborhoods and their districts, and they find alternative options. Some communities help each other with finding options to offer accommodation to IDPs. A good example is Yavoriv region, Sudova Vishnya. We have created a module town in Bortyatin village, and the people from Shahini community moved to that module town. I'd like to rephrase the previous question. How are you going to provide this lodging to IDPs? Do you have any priority list? Who will be number one? Speaking of a priority list, it's been regulated by the decree of the Cabinet of Ministers number 495, which was approved on the 25th of April. First of all, these are the village councils, small town councils, so they are in charge of deciding which lodging could be spared for the needs of IDPs. These institutions, they keep the list, waiting list, and they offer this lodging to IDPs. Please do not mix it with those waiting lists with the waiting lists for apartments that were created by territorial communities of regions. So this is totally different thing. We are talking about temporary lodging. Temporary is a key word here. So these people are going to live in temporary facilities, and they will be entitled to stay there for 1 year before their issue is resolved. If the issue is not resolved, then they can prolong their stay there. Speaking of priority or waiting list, who should be given accommodation first? So we will take into account the status of the person and their families. If this is, for example, the family with many children, there is a pregnant woman in a family, or there are disabled people, retirees, of course, they will be given higher priority than other categories of people. We also use other criteria. We understand that some people lost their family members because of the active hostilities and the combat activities. Some of them were servicemen, so it's also, let's say, raises their status. So they are given scores basically, and by adding up all those scores, so you get your place in the waiting list. There are also challenges that not all communities have such waiting lists. A good example, success story, is Drohobych territorial community. They have such waiting list, and this is open source information. It's transparent. It's in the local self-government website, so you can check the status of your case. We have a question. Irina Ostrowska, Espresso. My question is similar to the one that had been asked before, but I'd like to clarify. You mentioned 245,000 people, IDPs, who have already the temporary lodging, and how many need temporary lodging? You talked about module towns in Drohobych and other places. Are these module towns suitable for winter season? Out of 245,000 IDPs, around I don't have the figure, the exact figure, how many people found the lodging in private residential facilities. So that could be 225,000. Only 20,000 they stayed in schools, kindergartens, geriatric facilities, old people's homes, etc. So people who need care, for example, disabled or retirees, so they not only need lodging, they also need social care, and they need social institutions to take care of them. Therefore, these facilities that we create we understand that they also should cooperate with the social sector in order to get their help. And also we need to take into account the companies that get relocated into Lviv region. Because we have people, IDPs, who work in 193 businesses in the Lviv region. And we also need to take this into account, I mean, the proximity to their jobs. We have the program of priority infrastructural programs, and within the framework of these programs, people also can claim lodging. Speaking of these module towns, module buildings that we already built and whether they are suitable for winter season, if they are not built of blocks, then yes, you're right, they are not suitable for autumn and winter season. Therefore, if a building is built fast out of special blocks, so they are not suitable, but we are now working with development companies. And for example, in Sudova Vyshnya, Bortyatin village, they built a new module town. So these are containers that are like row houses, terraced houses, and they are suitable for winter and autumn season, and people can use laundry facilities, bathroom facilities, etc. Vasil Samokhvalov, Irina Vereshchuk announced mandatory evacuation from front zone. That means that dozens, thousands of people from front line are going to get evacuated, including into Lviv. Is Lviv region ready to welcome these people? And question number two, what you are talking about, so it's more temporary solution to a problem, but we understand that 5,000 of relocated businesses, they also have families and they're going to probably get assimilated and settle down here. Do you have any programs for that? And do you think that certain percentage of people are going to stay here for good? That's a wonderful question. I just wanted to share it in my presentation. We have a clear understanding that in case of massive evacuation, Lviv region will have to be flexible and will have to create additional beds. But it's not something new to us, because in late February, early March, Lviv accepted 120,000 people daily. 1/5 of that number stayed in Lviv and Lviv region. Therefore, we deployed social facilities, social institutions. We provided first aid kits and first need kits, essentials to those people. We were trying to create comfort and provide for their daily needs. So if the government calls for mandatory evacuation, of course, we are ready to get involved and assist in this massive evacuation. But speaking of prospects, of course, people cannot live up in the air all the time. So they have to have some hope for the future. They have to understand their employability and employment possibilities and their future. If you take a look at our presentation, this is district heating map. And these are the development projects that are ready for purchase. These are a few thousand apartments that could be purchased today at the government cost. These are the apartment buildings that could be used for the purpose. Most of the apartments are affordable, so we do not exceed the threshold. So this is 16,000 hryvnias per square meter, and you can multiply it by coefficient 1.75 for Lviv and Lviv agglomeration and 1.5 for other residential districts. So 1 square meter of such apartment would cost, the final price would be between 24 to 28,000 hryvnias. If you also consider the factors that affect the choice of the development projects, so they also have to be linked to the heat map or district heat map. So they are in close proximity to the centers of social development. So these are the areas where business would want to relocate and where IDPs would want to relocate, because you understand that Lviv has also Lviv agglomeration, border territory, and also small towns around Lviv that have enough residential fund and enough industrial fund that could be suitable for IDPs and business relocation projects. So we can offer the government and the donors to buy the existing facilities or buy new facilities. We don't want to convert our city into a ghetto, because there are a lot of public activists who are human rights, who protect human rights. And we know that some buildings in some towns, some small or big cities, so they were not suitable for the needs of IDPs. Therefore, we understand all this and we are trying to address all issues as much as possible. Thank you, Vadym, for your presentation, for the answers. Let me just remind you that our guest was Vadym Tabakera, Deputy Director of Economic Policy Department of Lviv Oblast Military Administration. At 1 p.m., we will be welcoming Andriy Klemenko, a Crimean journalist, co-founder and editor-in-chief of Black Sea News.